How many times have you heard this in your life? Do not be so sensitive. Stop overthinking. Toughen up a little. If those words sound so familiar that they create a quiet discomfort inside you, then you might be exactly the person this video is about. And I want to begin with a sentence that might surprise you. There is a very real possibility that your entire life has been misunderstood. Not because you are weak, not because you are fragile, but simply because your brain works differently from most of the world around you. Think back to a moment that might feel very familiar. You walk into a room and instantly feel that something is wrong. No one says anything. No one is arguing. But you can sense the tension in the air, almost like an invisible string pulled tight between people. Meanwhile, everyone else keeps talking normally, laughing, acting like nothing is happening. And then you start wondering if you imagined it. If maybe you are just too sensitive. But here is something most people have never told you. That sensitivity is not a flaw in your system. It is more like a radar. While most people experience the world in normal resolution, your brain is recording everything in extremely high resolution. You notice details that others miss. You feel emotions that other people do not even realize are there. And sometimes that makes you feel tired, out of place, or even a little different from everyone around you. But before you assume this is just a comforting idea meant to make you feel better, stay with me for a moment. Because in the next few minutes, you might discover that the thing people criticized your entire life as a weakness may actually be one of the rarest forms of human intelligence. And if you have ever been called too sensitive, the next part of this video might make you see yourself in a completely different way. So do not leave just yet. What you are about to hear might describe you more accurately than you expect. Do you know the most ironic thing about highly sensitive people? They often spend their entire lives trying to fix something that was never broken. They learn to stay quiet when they feel too much. They learn to pretend that everything is fine. And worst of all, they begin to believe that something is wrong with them. But if you are still here listening, there is a truth that no one may have ever said to you directly. Your brain is not weaker than others. It simply works more deeply. Think about how most people move through life. They walk into a room, notice a few familiar faces, hear a few conversations, and then move on with their day. But if you are highly sensitive, your experience is completely different. You walk into that same room, and within the first few seconds, your brain has already picked up dozens of subtle signals. A glance that avoids eye contact, a quiet sigh, a slight shift in someone's tone. You are not trying to analyze these things. Your brain is simply doing it automatically. And this is where many people start thinking they are overthinking. But the interesting truth is, you are not trying to think more. Your brain is simply designed to see deeper. It is like being born with a microscope in your mind, while most people are looking at the world with the naked eye. And when you look closer, you naturally see more, both the beauty and the chaos. This explains why you sometimes feel exhausted by things that seem completely normal to others. A crowded party, a noisy workday, an emotionally tense conversation. For most people, these are just everyday experiences. But for a sensitive brain, it is like opening dozens of tabs at the same time. Every sound, every emotion, every detail is being processed. And by the end of the day, your system is simply overloaded. But before you start thinking this is only a burden, pause for a moment. Because that same deep processing is also the source of rare strengths. Sensitive people are often the first to notice when someone is pretending to be okay. They can look at a situation and sense what is really happening beneath the surface. Sometimes they cannot even explain how they know. They just feel it. That is what many people call intuition. But intuition is not magic. It is the result of thousands of subtle signals your brain has quietly collected and connected. When someone's words do not match their emotions, you feel that mismatch. When a situation looks fine on the surface, but something is off underneath, you sense it. And in a world where many people only see the surface, the ability to see beyond it is incredibly powerful. However, there is a reason many sensitive people never recognize this strength. Because they grow up in a world designed for a different kind of brain. A world that values speed over depth, quick decisions over careful thinking, immediate reactions instead of pausing to feel. And in that environment, sensitive people are often labeled too emotional, too complicated, too easily affected. If you have ever heard those words, let me say something that might feel a little uncomfortable. Sometimes the problem is not that you are too sensitive. Sometimes the problem is that the world around you is too coarse, too loud to notice the subtle signals you see every day. But here's the most important part you need to understand. Sensitivity only becomes a burden when you try to live like someone who is not sensitive. When you force yourself to stay in environments that drain your energy. When you try to become who society expects instead of who your nervous system was designed to be. Imagine owning a high-performance sports car. It has a powerful engine and highly sensitive sensors. But instead of driving it on the right kind of road, you force it onto a rough, rocky path. You would start thinking something is wrong with the car. But the problem is not the car. The problem is the road. Sensitive people are the same. In the right environment, they do not just function well. They often excel. They become more creative. They connect with others more deeply. They see solutions that others miss, not because they are smarter in the traditional sense, but because they process more layers of information. The ironic part is that many of them never realize this. They get used to apologizing for their emotions, apologizing for needing time alone, apologizing for feeling too much. But think about this for a moment. In a world that is becoming more emotionally disconnected, the ability to feel deeply might be one of the most valuable traits left. And if you are starting to realize that everything I am describing sounds exactly like your life, there is one thing you should do right now. Subscribe to the channel, because this is only the beginning. In the next parts, we will go deeper into the signs that your brain truly belongs to this rare, sensitive group. And more importantly, how to protect this gift instead of letting it drain you. Because here is the truth. When a sensitive person learns how to understand and protect their nervous system, they no longer feel out of place in this world. They begin to realize that the thing that once made them feel weak is actually their quiet strength. And when that happens, they do not just change their own life. They begin to change the lives of the people around them. So stay until the end. Because in the next part, we are going to talk about something most sensitive people were never taught. How to turn your sensitivity from a burden into an advantage. And once you understand that, you will never see yourself the same way again. There is something you may have gone your entire life without ever hearing from anyone. And if you truly are a highly sensitive person, this sentence might make you pause for a moment and think, maybe the problem was never you. Maybe you are not too sensitive. Maybe you are simply living in a world that has not yet learned how to understand people who feel deeply. Think about this for a moment. In a world that moves fast, loud, and sometimes feels emotionally cold, people who feel deeply are often seen as the weakest ones. But the irony is that they are often the ones who see the most. They see the sadness behind a smile. They hear the exhaustion hidden inside a normal sentence. They sense things that most people completely overlook. And that is not a weakness. That is a rare form of awareness. So the next time someone tells you that you are too sensitive, try smiling a little. You do not need to argue. Just remember that you are experiencing the world at a depth they may never fully understand. And if this video felt like someone finally understood who you really are, subscribe to the channel right now. Because in the next video, you are going to discover 7 signs that your brain belongs to one of the most sensitive groups ever studied in psychology.